ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Team Takeover interviews. My name is Ross, aka Takeover Sports, and today I am joined by the defensive coordinator at Peru State College, Coach Wade Halvorsen. Coach Wade, how you doing, man?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, man. Of course, I appreciate you hopping on. I know that we're pretty close to football season. I know summer's training is about to start up, so I do appreciate you taking some time out to kind of talk to me
Uh,
for a minute.
you bet, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we kind of talking about the school and everything, I do want to take a step back and kind of talk about your background because this isn't your first time at Peru State College. You actually played here for a while,
Correct.
and your dad was here for a while. And apparently, when I saw it was you were a third generation Peru State
Correct.
player. So, kind of how was that being able to kind of go to the same spot where your dad went? I'm guessing your grandfather went, and being able to play there or play here.
Yeah. Yeah. So really my journey was a little different, getting back to the coaching piece. But before the coaching piece, growing up, it was always one of those things where my dad always talked about his experience. And then of course too, it's known as a teacher's college. And I knew basically from the day I was born, I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. And then of
Mm-hmm.
course, as I got older, I just wanted to coach. And really the big thing that brought me back, as far as coming to college here, was honestly just the opportunity to get a good degree at an affordable rate, and then of course too to play football. And in my opinion, there's no better place to play in the Oak Bowl. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had a great experience here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you did graduate here in what, 2013, I want to say?
Yep, yep.
Yep, 2013. And then you got your first coaching job kind of as a DB and strength coach in 2013, and you stayed there until 2015. If you can kind of tell me about that experience and how that
Yeah.
went for you before you ended up moving on to another spot.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough, blessed enough to do my playing, get all that out of the way, and had a blast. Obviously, made lifelong friends, met my wife here, those all those great things.
Hmm.
But eventually, as a student coach, it's like, okay, man, your time is done. Like if there's no grad assistance available, it's like, sorry.
Right.
And I worked under Coach Schneider at the time and Coach Terry Clark, and I was fortunate enough to get a grad assistant at Concordia University in Seward, Nebraska.
Okay.
And one of the things that I loved about my experience at Concordia or
Hmm.
in most NAI institutions, if you're a grad assistant, you pretty much have the same responsibilities as the full-time guys.
Right.
There's a lot of duties that you still don't want to do. There's some airport pickups and those types of things, copies and split and film. But besides that, I mean, I had a great experience there with Vance Winter, Patrick Daberco. But the thing that really stuck out to me is they allowed me to recruit. They allowed me to coach my own position, and then of course too, like you said, like the strength and conditioning piece. So really it allowed me to kind of dip my toes and kind of see what I truly wanted to do, where I really wanted to set my roots down as a coach. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like it. I was going to say while you were there, you did help have the number one passing defense in the NAIA with like 134.7 passing yards a game. So that's a
Yeah,
big tip of the cap there.
extremely fortunate. We had a guy named Darnell Woods. He was an All-American for us.
Hmm.
Tate Sybil was another guy. So yeah, I was fortunate. I came into a great situation, and two, like they were super coachable. I think it's tough for players and it's tough for coaches if you come in as a 23-year-old and you got this guy that's supposed to be your coach, and it's like, well, the dude just got done like last year.
Right.
But I was set up in a really good situation, and we had a lot of good football players, guys that love to play football.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to make sure you have guys that love football, because then, I mean, why are you here if you don't?
Mhm.
But after Concordia, you left and then you went to Aurora High School, where you also set records there defensively. So you just kind of set records wherever you go, it seems, just defensive wise, 198 passing yards. What is it? I'm sorry, that's total yards per
Total,
game
yeah.
in his first year. Yeah. And then you guys were the state runner ups. Kind of tell me about that experience, kind of going down from the college level to the high school level and what you were able to learn while you were there.
Oh man, that was it wasn't as hard as I kind of expected, but it was still tough in a sense of like you still have to teach. So
Mhm.
basically, I came in as the strength coordinator, director, or whatever title you want to give it. So I was the weights teacher, and then I was also coaching football, junior high, basketball, track. So really, what I took from that experience is it really taught me how to teach. You know,
Mhm.
and everybody's so different as far as like learning styles go. The main thing I took from that, my first teaching job, first coaching job outside of the college ranks, was to simplify everything and don't assume that kids know.
Right.
And then obviously too, like we had a lot of success because I was willing to build those relationships with kids. And if you can build those relationships and you're going to build that trust, and that's where you have a lot of fun and a lot of success. Now, granted, we had a lot of dudes on those teams at
Mhm.
Aurora, and fortunate there, but again, it was a culture had already been built. And I was fortunate enough. I didn't get in the way of the culture. I just helped continue to build it, I guess, in a sense.
Right.
And but yeah, it was pretty unreal to my first coaching job to outside of college, uh, to be coaching the state championship. 9 months removed from grad school and being a GA.
Yeah. 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 That seems like a very, kind of interesting experience. I was going to say, not only that, but being able to kind of step in, as you said, continue to help build that culture that was already there and, kind of help build that team up and help move it into that championship round.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, so after Aurora, you went to what is it, Canary High School in 2018. You
Carney.
stay Kearney, my
Yep.
apologies. Kearney
Hmm.
High School in 2018, and then you stay there in 2020. If you can kind of tell us about that experience too, and kind of the mainly like that 2020 season, how was that for you guys? Coming in with COVID and everything.
Yeah, so really for me, like the big thing moving to Kearney was, in the state of Nebraska, it was just the next division higher.
Mm,
And, my aspirations, my goals are, let's see where we can take this career. And, Kearney again is another, great program in the state of Nebraska. And
mm,
really that year, kind of what I take from that is our guys just love to have fun. And they flew to the football. I think when I think defensively, we weren't always technically sound, and some of that's definitely on me for sure. But at the same time, like they flew to the football, and they caused turnovers because of their effort,
right.
and the violence they played with. And so, looking back on that year, like that was huge. It was a lot of fun because there was a lot of effort and a lot of kids that just love to have fun. And when you're coaching in Nebraska in the Midwest, like you're going to have multi-sport athletes. And
Hmm.
so really with us at Kearney, we didn't really have your typical off season compared to a lot of other schools. We do 7-on-7 with our team, twice a week, where other teams basically practice throughout the summer essentially,
Hmm.
because of baseball. And at Kearney High, they're good in every sport. They have set records for their track program, and their Legion baseball has always been great, and basketball is great. So yeah, I mean that's my big takeaway from my Kearney experience, and being able to work with a head coach who'd been there forever and just a true workman.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that final stop before you ended up coming back to Bruce State College was at what, Omaha West Side High School.
Yeah,
Right. That
yeah,
was a championship program, two national championships, and then a runner-up in 2020, what is it, 2021? So if you
yeah,
can kind of tell me how that helped you and if there were any coaches that were there that kind of helped you shape who you are even more, as well as
yeah.
working at the, I'm sorry, as well as working at the 2023 Nebraska Shrine Bowl All-Star game. Any coaches you met there while you were still working there as well?
Yeah, so for me, West Side, man, that was a ride. It was an amazing time. And
Hmm.
that was my first stop where I really wasn't coaching more than football. Like I was coaching track, but it is a football school through and through.
Right.
Um, and when you look up the word culture in the dictionary, like West Side football is probably going to be on there, because they're just so intentional about building relationships and
Hmm.
so intentional about like honoring the past, but also moving forward. The unique thing that I had at that school is I coached with two different head coaches. So Brett Freund, he had been there since the early 2000s, and then after a couple years, after the 2 years that I was there, he retired, and he was great. Like he was a true football guy, X's and O's. Like he knew everything, and so I learned a ton from him in that experience, from that side of things. And then my final year, Coach Lamangi came in, and Coach Lamangi, he's from Ohio. He's an Italian, a tough, tough guy, and so his motto is it's ET, effort and toughness, and so that's kind of one of the things that he instilled in me was it's just one of those things of like, hey, like this is how you rebrand or you brand your defense is guys again flying to the football, being extremely violent,
Hmm.
all those little cues, but at the high school level, they just don't get done.
Right.
And and then the last thing I'll take from there too is, their big thing was they have a sports psychologist on staff. So I learned a whole lot about positive self-talk and creating different cues for myself even as a coach to reset. So those are all the little things, and then of course of through building relationships through the high school ranks. I was selected to coach in the Shrine Bowl game, but I wasn't able to because I accepted this job.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but again, like that was probably one of my biggest honors as a coach. Like the state championships were great. I mean, I hope that for every
Hmm.
coach that is in the ranks of being at the top at the end of the season. But just being selected as one of the top guys in the state of Nebraska was huge. And two, being a coach's kid, my dad, I think, coaching it in the Kansas Shrine Bowl in like 95, 96. So that
Oh,
was kind of
wow.
cool to match him up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, as a high school coach, I had a great experience. Great
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you how that process was transitioning from, the high school ranks coming back here to Peru State College. What was it kind of like when you got that call saying, "Hey, can you come in and kind of be our new DC?"
Yeah. So the cool thing was, Coach Akingay, we call him Coach O.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, Peru State has changed so much in the last 10 years. And, a lot of people think of it, the perception is what it was in, maybe 2000, 2001. And that's just not what it is. And, we just put up a new indoor facility that we'll be able to use now.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
we have our own football facility, which a lot of schools our size don't have, where we
Hmm.
have our offices and we have a weight room and all those things. So when I got the call from Coach O, it was cool coming back, to your alma mater. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you on that. But professionally, like what we have here, it's second to none at our division and even a lot of higher divisions.
Hmm.
So when he called, I was like, it's a no brainer. Like there's a lot of sacrifices like my family had to make, and even in different areas. But looking at this in the big picture, the long term, like we're about to take off, and that's something that we're not afraid to talk about here.
Yeah.
And so that's what brought me back. Obviously I love Peru State, but if it wasn't for Coach O and his vision, I'd probably still be in Omaha.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, congratulations on coming back again.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of want to transition into last season for you guys because it was an interesting season. I looked at the kind of the schedule, look
Yeah.
at the record, 5-6 last year, but it was a really like streaky 5-6. There were a lot of win streaks. There were a lot of losing streaks kind of going on. If you can kind of break down how that happened and then kind of talk about the defensive performances as well.
Yeah, so man, yeah, streaky is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah.
Like we started out, not to go into a ton of detail, but the first game of the year, we were up by, I think it was 31-17 with like 4 minutes left, and then just had a fluke ending. Like we just didn't finish it.
Hmm.
And then the second game, very similar situation, just didn't finish it. Uh,
Hmm.
so the first four games, man, like they were really tough. They were really tough for us. And again, as a defense and as a defensive staff, we were all trying to kind of find our identities, to be honest with you. Like where do we fit in as a staff? What do we need to do
Right.
to communicate better to our kids?
Hmm.
And then shoot, we really we really got back to the basics, of finding out as coaches, as simple as, our scouting reports aren't going to be digital anymore. Our scouting reports are going to be printed off. We're going to print out everything for you now.
Okay.
Just kind of getting back to those types of things, and never assuming.
Hmm.
And then too, as coaches, just saying, okay, who are our best 11 guys,
Right.
and how can we get them on the field? And like if you do your research, I had a guy just tell me the other day of like I was watching film of game one, and none of those guys were on the field. Really in the secondary. The last game of the year.
Sure.
So we had a couple all conference guys as freshmen, and
Hmm.
you know, one came in as a receiver. One was like, well, he's a safety, but he could play receiver. Two of our starting corners at the end of the year, one was a running back, and one was a receiver. So really it was just finding those athletes and then putting them in place. And then two, we had Devin Adams, and who's starting right now in the CFL. And so
Hmm.
I think he helped anchor the defensive line. But besides that, is like we just had a lot of question marks, and we really started to figure it out towards the end of the year, and especially ending the season with the shutout. Like it doesn't get any better as a coach, on the last game unless you're winning the natty. But end of the regular season, you shut the team out, and it's been great momentum going into recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I could 100% see that. I was gonna say coming out. Yeah, really, really weird year going on, but going out, finishing on that high note is probably a really good thing, momentum wise, going into next season.
For sure.
It did seem like a very like young team that I looked at it. I did look at that roster. It didn't have that many. It had like what, five upperclassmen in the DB room, maybe like
Yeah,
five on the D line. So
yeah,
it was just seemed like a lot of young guys that were kind of hungry that kind of wanted to get in. And then you guys were a new coaching staff as well. So being able to find your footing seemed like a very important thing, and it seemed like it really helped out for the end of the year.
yeah, for sure. And that, it kind of sucks on senior day when there's five or six guys, and you know, it's hard. But then at the same time, it's like, hey, we have a lot of momentum, and
Hmm.
we have a lot of young kids. The last game of the year, we started six freshmen,
Yeah,
and that's obviously not the goal. We don't want to start six freshmen, but
right.
if you're the best of the best, then you will play. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it really tested me as a coach, because kind
Hmm.
of like we were talking earlier, like I've been extremely fortunate to have a lot of wins and be a part of a lot of good cultures, and so as a coach, I'd never started out 0-4. You know,
Hmm.
when I was coaching at Westside, I think we maybe lost 3 games in 3 years or whatever it was, and so as a coach, it like really stretched me, but it took a good look in the mirror, and try to simplify everything, and how can I be better for these kids,
Right.
and then it starts with you as a coach.
Hmm. Right. Also, I would be remiss to say shout out to Devin Adams. Me and him work together a little bit, so it
Okay.
is always cool when you got to kind of talk to the coach that he's working with. So,
Yeah.
to the cap to him. But kind of talking about that 5 and 6 season, what's that next step for you guys going into this year? I know you were talking about you guys are like right there about to start coming up. So
Yeah.
what does that kind of look like? Is it a conference title, kind of national title? What are you looking for?
Yeah, obviously it's everyone wants playoffs, national title, and all those things, but as us as coaches, we have to be very careful just focusing. It's cliche, I'll admit, it's just focusing on the day.
Hmm.
'Cause I think last year we got a little ahead of ourselves. We saw some talent, and then we at the beginning of the year, and then it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have talked about playoffs and all those things, but
Right.
at the same time, like we're here to win games,
Yeah.
and we're not here to go 5-6, 6-5, and everyone pat us on the back for doing that.
Hmm.
So the next step, yeah, for sure, it's playoffs, it's conference title, it's knocking off Grandview and Baker and Mid American Nazarene and Benedictine. Those are the teams, and
Hmm.
for us to be in the hunt, like we have to win the big games, and yeah, playoffs definitely. But again, getting back to the coaching cliche, like just focus on the week ahead, because if you look too far ahead, start patting yourselves on the back, then you're gonna get in some trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, well, next thing I kind of want to talk about is losing those, what, like 10 5, 6 seniors on each position. Who are some guys that you're expecting to come in next year and either kind of solidify their spot as a starter or kind of come in and compete for that starting role?
Yeah, on defense, Quez Oliver's a big guy. We have, obviously we have two all conference guys, freshman player of the year coming back, and Duke McClinton, Ashley Thompson. Those are defensively, those are some guys for us. We have some transfers that came in that should help us as well.
Hmm.
Offensively, we bring back a quarterback. And doesn't matter if you're playing NCAA or whatever. Like if you have your starting quarterback back, you feel pretty good about yourselves on offense. So
Yeah,
offensively, return pretty much. I think it was 19 out of 22 guys. Uh, with Jordan Kemp, being an all conference type guy in the return game for a receiver. So we feel good. We feel really good, and it's just the big thing is just staying humble, and then also just making sure we stay healthy too. And that's
absolutely.
if you want to make a run, obviously you have to have a really good 11, obviously to start and everything, but you have to be really good about two and a half deep,
Hmm.
because it is a long season, and so that's going to be the big thing is just making sure that we develop some quality depth, and with this recruiting class we have athletes and we have length and we have all the things that you want. It's just how can we as coaches really make sure we take their game to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, knock on wood for health, main thing. Knock
Yep,
on wood for that. And hopefully you guys do end up getting that 2 to 3 men deep at each
yep.
position. Uh, the freshmen that are coming in, I do want to ask you what kind of the plan for them was. Is it more they compete for that starting? Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
guessing it's more competing for a starting lineup more than like a red shirt and anything like that.
100%, 100%. So the world we live in now doesn't matter if you're Division One or NAI. Like for us, we don't plan to redshirt guys,
Hmm.
and so we tell all of our recruits, hey man, like you come in and compete, you will play. Whether it's special teams, whether it's too deep, defensively, it could be a third down package, it could be a goal line package. It's the goal is to play,
Yeah.
and the competition is what's going to help with our success at every position. And I think sometimes with our in average programs, some guys get extremely comfortable because there isn't depth, there isn't
Hmm.
competition. And so yeah, our recruits, we told them, we played a ton of freshmen last year, but that doesn't mean that you're not better than the freshmen that played last year.
Right. 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 Understandable. So, last two questions before I get you on out of here, man, so you can kind of do what you got to do. For any young coaches that are listening, what's some advice that you'd be willing to give to them about getting up to that next level?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is, do the job, whatever
Hmm.
job it is, do the job, because you're going to be asked to do some tasks that you're like, what, why do I have to do this or whatever it would be, but don't be afraid to do the task. And another piece of advice too is, if you are looking to be a grad assistant or a stipend coach, do your research on the head coach, do your research on the assistants. If you have big dreams, you need to go to a place where the other coaches have been other places, and I
Hmm.
think that's extremely important. And then the last thing too would just be, um, once you get that job, like just be yourself. Don't try to be Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or any of these guys, Dabo Sweeney. Like just go in and be yourself,
Right.
and don't be afraid to communicate with your DC OC head coach of like if you have questions on the scheme, if you have questions on drills, or even if it's, hey, am I doing okay? Because sometimes as coaches we just get in the practice mode, game mode, and sometimes we forget to give feedback and
Yeah.
have that gratitude for people working with us and people helping us really just get our program to the next level. And so those are the three things I would say for sure.
Absolutely. Well, last question I have for you before I get you on out here. Players that are kind of looking to play at that next level from high school, your players that are in the transfer portal, what's some advice that you would give to them about finding their home in their next situation?
Yeah, so that is a great question, and I love to answer it, because pretty much recruiting never stops for us. We don't
Hmm.
have our recruiting model, our scholarship, we're very, very fortunate. And so for us, we're recruiting pretty much every day, maybe besides Christmas, depending on who you are. We'll probably still talk to you on Christmas.
Right.
Uh, but I would say, you need to go where you're wanted, and that's probably the number one thing that we deal with, as far as recruits wanting to go Division 1, Division 2, whatever it is. That's great. I want you to dream big,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's the college football experience, and so I want you to go where you're actually going to play, and two, like, just make sure you ask questions. I think in the recruiting process for high school kids, it's a lot of fun, man. For these, it doesn't matter what level it is. Coaches are going to tell you how good you are, how they want you, blah blah blah. But ask those questions, man. Ask, where do you see me? A
Yeah.
great question I had, a recruit asked me the other day, "What do you like about my film?" And
Mm.
that's huge, because especially at some levels, at some schools, it's just a mass email, you've been offered.
Right.
But for us, we make it a little more personal, and so personal, excuse me. So recruits, I would say definitely go where you're wanted. Ask the tough questions, and then too, like, feel free to always ask like the tough questions as far as money, or academics. You know,
Hmm.
okay, you want to be a business major. All right, so what do your players do? As the business majors that are playing in your program, where have they gone?
Right.
After you graduate from Peru State College, can you hook me up with a great internship? So I think a lot of times in the recruiting process, guys really truly forget about the kind of that 4-year plan, or they just love the love. And so for us, you come here, you're going to perform in world class facilities, get a great education. And what I tell a lot of people is, like, ask about facilities. There's a lot
Hmm.
of schools we play, man. Like, they're playing at high school fields. Does that matter to you? Because some schools, or some kids, it doesn't.
Right.
When you're doing spring ball, are you going to have the track team running around while you're trying to catch a ball, or make a break on the ball? And so
Hmm.
those are things where we're here at Peru. It's like we're a football school,
Right.
and we don't have soccer, and we don't have track, and our schools put $30 million into our program in the last 10 years. And so now's the time. Now's the time.
Yeah. Well, Coach Wade, man, I appreciate you sitting down talking to me again, man. Best of luck this season. Uh, and hopefully things turn around. You guys are in that playoffs, in that championship game this year.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me, man.
Of course, man. Of course, man. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
All right. Have a great one.